Before she became the most powerful woman in media, before she built a billion-dollar empire, before presidents called her for advice and the world hung on her every word, there was a girl in rural Mississippi. She had nothing, less than nothing. Born into poverty so deep it had its own gravity. Born into circumstances so brutal they would have crushed most spirits before they ever learned to fly. But in a tiny shack with no running water, no electricity, and walls so thin the wind whispered through them like ghosts, there lived something unbreakable: faith. Not the kind of faith they preached about in church, though she had that too. Not the kind of faith that hopes and prays and waits for miracles to fall from heaven. No, this was different. This was the kind of faith that Napoleon Hill wrote about. The kind that doesn't just believe in tomorrow, it creates it. At 9 years old, while picking cotton under the Mississippi sun, she made a declaration that would echo through eternity. "I will not live like this forever. I am meant for something greater." No evidence supported that statement. Every statistic argued against it. Every expert would have called it impossible. But she believed it anyway. Not because she had reason to, but because she had something more powerful than reason. She had faith. And faith, according to Hill, is the only known antidote to failure. This is the story of Oprah Winfrey. And this is the story of how one girl's unshakable belief in herself transformed not just her own life, but the lives of millions around the world. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what Napoleon Hill meant when he wrote, "Faith is the head chemist of the mind." And you'll learn how to mix that chemistry in your own life. Her name was Oprah Gayle Winfrey, born January 29, 1954, in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, a town so small it barely existed on most maps. Her teenage mother, Vernita Lee, wasn't ready for a child. Her father, Vernon Winfrey, was absent. Her grandmother, Hattie Mae, became her world. Hattie Mae lived in a cabin that would make poverty look middle class. No indoor plumbing, no electricity, no shoes for little Oprah most days. The floors were bare wood. The walls were thin as paper. Winter crept through every crack. But Hattie Mae had something more valuable than money. She had an unshakable belief in the power of the human spirit. Every morning before dawn, she would wake Oprah and say, "Child, you are meant for great things. Don't you ever forget that." Then she would send her to the well to fetch water. Every single day, no matter the weather, no matter how tired she was, no matter how much her small hands hurt from the cold metal bucket. "Why do I have to go?" little Oprah would ask. "Because you're building strength, and great people need great strength." Most children would have seen this as punishment. Oprah saw it as preparation. At 3 years old, she was already reading, not simple words, entire sentences. By 5, she was reciting Bible verses at church. By 6, she was writing her own stories. The adults in her community shook their heads in amazement. "That child is special," they whispered. "That child has a gift." But gifts without faith are just potential, and potential without action is just dreams. Hattie Mae understood this, so she did something that would shape Oprah's entire worldview. She taught her to believe not just in God, but in herself. Not just in heaven, but in her own power to create her earthly destiny. "The Lord helps those who help themselves," she would say. "And you, child, are going to help yourself to a life bigger than this place can hold." When Oprah was 6, everything changed. Hattie Mae got sick. Vernita came to take her daughter to Milwaukee to live in a cramped apartment with half-siblings she barely knew. The transition was devastating.
Milwaukee was a concrete jungle compared to the rural Mississippi she knew. The apartment was crowded, chaotic, unstable. But something remarkable happened. Instead of breaking her spirit, the hardship refined it. She started spending hours at the local library, not because anyone told her to, but because books were her escape, her hope, her proof that bigger worlds existed. She read everything: biographies of great people, stories of triumph over impossible odds, poems about dreams that refused to die. And in those pages, she found something that would sustain her through the darkest years ahead. Evidence that transformation was possible, that people could rise above their circumstances, that faith, properly applied, was the ultimate force multiplier. When she was 14, her world shattered again. She was sent back to Milwaukee to live with her mother, and there, in that apartment, unspeakable things happened. She was molested by male relatives, repeatedly. The trauma was crushing. The shame was suffocating. The sense of powerlessness was complete. At 14, she ran away from home. She became pregnant and lost the baby shortly after birth. Any reasonable person would have looked at Oprah Winfrey in 1968 and seen a statistic: another broken girl from a broken home destined for a broken life. But they would have been looking at the circumstances, not the spirit. Because even in her darkest moments, even when everything seemed hopeless, something inside her refused to surrender. She would lie awake at night and whisper to herself, "This is not how my story ends. This is just where it begins to get interesting." That's faith. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of hope stronger than fear. Not the belief that bad things won't happen, but the unshakable conviction that good things are possible anyway. Napoleon Hill wrote about this exact phenomenon. Faith is a state of mind which may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind. Oprah was programming herself for greatness, one whispered prayer at a time.
In 1937, Napoleon Hill made a statement that shocked the world. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But he wasn't talking about wishful thinking. He wasn't promoting blind optimism. He was describing a scientific principle he had discovered after studying 500 of the most successful people in America for over 20 years. Hill defined faith as a state of mind that may be induced by autosuggestion. But what does that actually mean? Let me break it down. Your mind has two parts. Your conscious mind, the part that thinks, analyzes, and makes decisions, and your subconscious mind, the part that controls your automatic responses, your deeply held beliefs, and your perception of what's possible. Here's the key. Your conscious mind can lie to you. It can tell you that you're not good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough. But your subconscious mind always tells the truth as it understands it. And here's the revolutionary part. You can program your subconscious mind to understand a different truth. Hill wrote, "Faith is the only known antidote to failure." Why? Because faith isn't just belief. It's belief that takes action. It's belief that changes behavior. It's belief that creates new realities. Hill identified 3 specific ways that faith transforms lives. First, faith eliminates the fear of failure. Most people don't attempt great things because they're terrified of failing. But people with true faith understand something different. Failure is just feedback. It's not a verdict on their worth. It's information about their approach. When young Oprah was sent from home to home, most children would have interpreted this as evidence that they were unwanted, unloved, unworthwhile. But her grandmother had programmed her with a different interpretation. You're being prepared for something special. God is showing you different worlds so you can help different people. Same circumstances, completely different meaning. That's the power of faith-based interpretation.
Second, faith creates what Hill called the persistence of effort. People without faith give up when things get hard. People with faith get energized by obstacles because they see them as evidence they're on the right path. Hill wrote, "Every person who wins in any undertaking must be willing to burn his ships and cut all sources of retreat." Orpha did exactly that. At 19, when she got her first job at a local radio station in Nashville, she didn't just want to succeed, she had to succeed, because she had burned the ship back to her old life. There was no plan B, because plan A was her destiny. Third, faith attracts opportunities that seem like luck. Hill called this the law of attraction, but he wasn't talking about mystical forces. He was talking about neuroscience. When you have faith in a specific outcome, your subconscious mind starts noticing opportunities that support that outcome. Opportunities that were always there, but you couldn't see them before because you weren't looking for them. When Orpha was 19, working part-time at that radio station while going to college, she had absolute faith that she was destined for television. Not hope, not wishful thinking, faith. So when the local TV station announced they were looking for Nashville's first African-American female news anchor, she didn't just apply, she knew the job was meant for her. Everyone else saw a long shot. She saw destiny unfolding. Hill wrote extensively about what he called the faith formula. Step 1, definite purpose. You must know exactly what you want. Not vaguely, not generally, specifically. Orpha didn't just want success or a better life. She wanted to be on television, helping people, making a difference in the world. Specific. Step 2, emotional involvement. You must feel your goal as already accomplished. You must live in the end result emotionally before it exists physically. Even as a teenager, Orpha would practice accepting awards, giving speeches, interviewing important people. She wasn't pretending, she was rehearsing. Step 3, repetition until belief. You must repeat your faith statement until it becomes automatic, until your subconscious mind accepts it as true. Every morning, Orpha would look in the mirror and say, "I am meant to help people. I am meant to inspire people. I am meant to make a difference." She said it when she felt strong. She said it when she felt broken. She said it until she became it. Step 4, action despite fear. Faith without action is just hope. Faith with action becomes power. Hill wrote, "Faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches." But he wasn't just talking about money. He was talking about the accumulation of all forms of wealth, influence, impact, fulfillment, purpose. The most important thing Hill discovered about faith: it's not something you either have or don't have. It's something you develop through practice. Faith is a state of mind that may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind. In other words, you can build faith the same way you build muscles, through consistent, progressive training. When Orpha was going through her darkest times, the abuse, the pregnancy, the chaos, she was actually building her faith muscles, not because she enjoyed the suffering, but because she refused to let the suffering define her possibilities. Hill wrote, "Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit." Most people focus on the adversity. People with faith focus on the seed. Orpha learned to do this instinctively. Every setback became evidence that she was being prepared for something bigger. Every closed door became proof that the right door was still ahead. That's not positive thinking. That's faith-based thinking. And there's a massive difference. Positive thinking says, everything will work out. Faith-based thinking says, I will make everything work out. One is passive, the other is active. One is hope, the other is power. One waits for miracles, the other creates them.
At 19, Oprah Winfrey became the youngest person and the first African-American woman to anchor the news at Nashville's WLAC-TV. The year was 1973. The civil rights movement was still fresh. Television was still a white man's world. A young black woman from Mississippi had about as much chance of succeeding in media as she did of flying to the moon. But Oprah didn't see barriers. She saw stepping stones. Her first day on the job, the news director pulled her aside. "Look," he said, "we're taking a big risk on you. Don't mess this up." Most people would have heard that as pressure. Oprah heard it as confirmation. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. But the job was harder than she expected. Reading news felt mechanical, cold, disconnected from her true nature. She was good at it, but it didn't feed her soul. Hill wrote, "The person who stops studying merely because he has finished school is forever hopelessly doomed to mediocrity." Oprah understood this instinctively. She studied not just journalism, but human nature. She watched how people responded to different types of communication. She paid attention to what made them lean in, what made them trust, what made them feel understood. And she realized something profound. Her gift wasn't just reading news, it was connecting with people, making them feel seen, heard, valued. In 1976, she was offered a job in Baltimore co-hosting a morning talk show called People Are Talking. The pay was better than news, but the format was considered less prestigious. Her agents advised against it. Her news colleagues said she was making a mistake. Her rational mind told her to stay safe, but her faith told her something different. This was the path. Hill wrote about this exact moment in everyone's journey. The turning point in the lives of those who succeed usually comes at the moment of some crisis. The crisis wasn't external, it was internal. Would she follow convention or conviction? Would she choose safety or faith? She chose faith. People Are Talking became a phenomenon, not because of the format, but because of Oprah's approach. She didn't just interview guests, she connected with them. She didn't just ask questions, she shared herself. For the first time in television history, a host was being vulnerable, authentic, real. She cried with her guests, she laughed with them. She let them see her humanity. The ratings soared, but more importantly, something magical was happening. People weren't just watching a show, they were experiencing transformation. Letters poured in from viewers saying things like, "You helped me feel less alone. You gave me courage to leave my abusive marriage. You showed me I matter." This was the moment Oprah understood her true purpose. She wasn't meant to be a news anchor or even a talk show host. She was meant to be a catalyst for human potential. In 1984, she was offered a job in Chicago hosting a failing morning show called AM Chicago. It was in last place in the ratings, going up against the established king of daytime TV, Phil Donahue. Everyone told her it was career suicide. Chicago was a tough market. The show was hemorrhaging viewers. The station was desperate. But Oprah saw something different. She saw an opportunity to take everything she had learned and scale it to a bigger audience. Hill wrote, "Opportunity often comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat." What looked like a failing show to everyone else looked like perfect timing to Oprah. Within 3 months, AM Chicago had gone from last place to first place in the ratings. They were beating Phil Donahue, something industry experts said was impossible. But it wasn't the ratings that mattered most to Oprah. It was the letters, thousands of them, from people whose lives were being changed by what they were seeing and hearing. She had tapped into something universal, the hunger for authentic connection, genuine understanding, and hope that transcends circumstances. In 1986, the show was renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show and went into national syndication. The girl who had been born in poverty, who had survived abuse, who had lost a baby, who had run away from home, that girl was now reaching millions of people every single day. But the real proof of her faith wasn't in her success. It was in how she used that success. She didn't just become rich and famous, she became a force for good. She built schools in Africa. She gave away hundreds of millions of dollars. She used her platform to elevate others. Hill wrote, "It is literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others to succeed." Oprah had understood this principle instinctively. Her faith wasn't just about her own transformation. It was about transforming the world around her. In 1988, she produced and starred in Beloved, based on Toni Morrison's novel about slavery. It was a passion project that Hollywood said would never work. Too heavy, too difficult, too risky. She made it anyway, not because she expected it to be commercially successful, but because she believed it needed to exist. Hill wrote, "Faith is the eternal elixir which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought." Her faith had evolved beyond personal success. It had become a commitment to using her gifts in service of something larger than herself. By the 1990s, she had become the most powerful woman in media. She could make bestsellers with book recommendations. She could influence elections with endorsements. She could change public opinion with a single show. But she never forgot where she came from. In interviews, she would often say, "I still feel like that little girl picking cotton in Mississippi. The only difference is, now I know that little girl was destined for greatness." That's the ultimate proof of faith. When you achieve your dreams, you don't forget who you were. You honor who you were by becoming who you were meant to be. The girl who whispered, "I am meant for something greater," in a Mississippi cotton field had become a woman who helped millions of people discover their own greatness. Hill wrote, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Oprah Winfrey didn't just prove that statement, she became living testimony to its truth.
You may never host a television show. You may never build a media empire. But you are facing something that requires faith. A dream that seems impossible. A goal that feels distant. A vision that others call unrealistic. Let me give you the same blueprint Oprah used. Not her circumstances, those were unique, but her process, that's universal. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years studying successful people and discovered that they all had one thing in common. They had developed what he called applied faith. Not just belief, but belief backed by action. Not just hope, but hope powered by persistence. Not just dreams, but dreams supported by definite plans. Here's your step-by-step guide to building the kind of faith that creates miracles. Step 1. Define your mission, not just your goals. Most people set goals. I want to make $1 million. I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to find love. People with faith set missions. I want to create financial security so I can help my family and community. I want to become healthy so I can model wellness for my children. I want to find deep connection so I can experience and share authentic love. Goals are about getting. Missions are about becoming. Oprah didn't just want to be on television. She wanted to help people understand their own potential. The television was just the vehicle. What's your mission? What impact do you want to have? What legacy do you want to leave? Step 2. Create your faith declaration. Hill wrote, "Faith is the starting point
of all accumulation of riches. But faith must be activated through specific, repeated declarations. Write down a clear statement of who you are becoming and what you are committed to creating. Not what you want, what you are creating. Oprah's declaration might have been, "I am a woman who inspires millions of people to live their best lives. I use my gifts to create connection, understanding, and hope in the world." Present tense, definite, inspiring. Write yours now. Make it specific. Make it meaningful. Make it bigger than just your personal benefit. Step 3. Establish your daily faith practice. Faith isn't a feeling, it's a practice. And like any practice, it requires consistency. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you start your day, spend 10 minutes building your faith. Read your declaration. Visualize yourself already living your mission. Feel the emotions of having achieved your purpose. Ask yourself, what would someone with unshakable faith do today? Take at least one action that aligns with your mission. Oprah did this instinctively. Even during her darkest times, she had rituals that reinforced her faith in her own potential. Step 4. Reframe every obstacle as preparation. Hill wrote, "Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit." This is perhaps the most important aspect of applied faith, the ability to find purpose in pain, strength in struggle, wisdom in wounds. When Oprah was abused, she could have seen herself as damaged. Instead, she eventually saw herself as someone who could help other survivors. When she was rejected from jobs, she could have seen herself as not good enough. Instead, she saw herself as being redirected toward her true calling. This isn't about denying pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about refusing to let circumstances define your possibilities. What obstacle are you facing right now? How might this challenge be preparing you for your mission? Step 5. Surround yourself with faith-building influences. Hill understood that we become like the people we spend the most time with and the ideas we expose ourselves to most often. Oprah filled her life with books, mentors, and experiences that reinforced her faith in human potential. She studied successful people. She read biographies of overcomers. She surrounded herself with people who saw possibilities, not problems. Audit your influences. What are you reading? Who are you listening to? What content are you consuming? If you want to build faith, you must intentionally expose yourself to stories and ideas that expand your sense of what's possible. Step 6. Take faith-based action daily. Faith without action is just wishful thinking, but faith with action becomes unstoppable force. Every single day, you must take at least one action that only makes sense if your mission is real. One phone call, one application, one conversation, one step toward your vision. These actions serve two purposes. They move you closer to your goal, and they prove to your subconscious mind that you actually believe what you're saying. Oprah didn't just declare she was meant for television. She studied broadcasting, practiced interviewing, and pursued every opportunity to get in front of cameras. What action will you take today that demonstrates your faith in your own potential? Step 7. Celebrate evidence of progress. Faith is strengthened by evidence, not just big breakthroughs, but small wins, meaningful connections, moments of synchronicity. Keep a faith journal. Write down every piece of evidence that suggests you're on the right path. Every door that opens, every person who believes in you, every small step forward. Oprah understood this. She celebrated every rating increase, every positive letter, every life that was touched by her work. Your faith grows stronger when you pay attention to proof that it's working.
If you felt something shift inside you while listening to this story, if you recognized a spark of possibility you thought had died, don't let this moment pass. Right now, before you do anything else, write down your mission. Not your goals, your mission. The impact you want to have, the legacy you want to leave. Then write your faith declaration. Who are you becoming? What are you committed to creating? What would be possible if you had unshakable faith in your own potential? Read it out loud, feel it in your body, let it echo in your mind. Because here's what Napoleon Hill discovered. The starting point of all achievement is desire, backed by faith in your ability to attain it. Oprah Winfrey proved that faith isn't just a nice idea, it's a force that can transform reality. A girl born into poverty became the most powerful woman in media. Not through luck, not through connections, through faith applied with persistent action. You have the same power, the same potential, the same choice. The only question is, will you use it? Like this video if it reminded you that your circumstances don't determine your possibilities. Your faith does. Subscribe to join a community of people who are done waiting for permission to pursue their potential. Today, your assignment is simple. Define your mission, declare your faith, and take one action that proves you believe in your own potential. Because faith isn't about believing in miracles, faith is about becoming the miracle that others need to see. Just like a little girl from Mississippi who refused to let her circumstances define her possibilities. She believed in tomorrow, and tomorrow believed in her back. Your tomorrow is waiting for the same choice.